Welcome everyone who's been able to join this session. We really appreciate it. And thanks for wanting to learn more about sustainability and fashion. My name is Alex Muir. I'm the Sustainability Manager here at eBay, helping with all things related to environment, social, and governance that we cover. This ranges from things like renewable energy, looking at a lot of our ratings and rankings out there, but also we do a lot of work in the reCommerce space. And we're very excited to have our guest here, Michelle, explain a bit more about her business and what she does as well. So Michelle, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks so much. So I started reselling in 2020 when the pandemic started. My business is Emmy's Closet, and I focus on more contemporary fashion and definitely trying to be as sustainable as I can as a business and as an individual. So I'm going into my 4th year now as a reseller.
Awesome. That's great to hear. No, I'm really excited to hear you're into your 4th year. I'm sure it's been a lot learning over the past few years, especially during some tough times like the pandemic, but I'm really
definitely
you do. Yeah. So I think we can get started on some of the questions we have, but just want to know a bit more about what made you start first selling on eBay.
So I actually tried selling on eBay when I was doing college, but I didn't have much time to really invest into it and really make it either a part-time income or anything like that. But then I started again in 2020 during the pandemic because I knew that eBay is like the largest secondhand platform for selling and buying, because I used to buy all the time on eBay, but also because it's a platform for business owners pretty much. Like, I've used other platforms, but you don't really get the option to like automate your offers or your listings and editings and things like that. So that's what really stood out to me for eBay. I feel like it's truly for entrepreneurs.
Got it. And just based on the nature of how your business operates and everything, it seems like you're definitely quite focused on sustainability. So just curious to hear what got you interested in sustainability in the first place.
Yeah, so I actually learned more about fast fashion in 2017 when I saw a documentary titled The True Cause. I caught it on Netflix. I like to watch anything that has something to do with fashion, either like documentaries about designers or in general, in this case, it was a documentary on fashion waste. And I didn't know anything about it. I just thought, I like to shop, and then I donate my clothes, and I thought I was doing a really good deed. But when I learned about fast fashion and how wasteful it is, how harmful it is too, also for the community and the environment, we don't see it as much here because we live in the US, so we're very lucky. But our donations, our unwanted, clothing, they go overseas. And that's really where all the damage is. And then I saw a recent documentary like last week that focused on Kenya and how our clothing are going to them, and it's really undermining their economy and things like that. And so that documentary really stuck with me because I consume fashion the most out of everything. Like, I buy it constantly, and then I also buy textile to make my own clothes. And so when I saw that I was myself, just an individual, was creating this much damage, I was like, well, what can I do, as an individual? At that time, I couldn't do anything on a bigger scale. So I just decided for myself to cut out fast fashion. So I don't, go to like certain stores because I know like they're not really looking out for the consumers. And they're just purely, all businesses are making profit, but, they're doing it in a way that, to me, I don't agree with. So that's really where I started with the sustainability. And then I had quit my job in 2017 and I wanted to focus on fashion design. And so I wanted to use only biodegradable textile as a way to reduce, harmful output into the environment, and then just waste in general. So that's really what all of this is coming from. And then I started reselling because of the pandemic, and then just saw that there was so much beautiful things getting tossed, unwanted. And so I want to be able to use those textiles and those old clothing and create something new out of them. So that's my long-term goal.
That's great. And we really, really value sellers who use eBay as a platform to participate in reCommerce. We know that there's environmental metrics associated with, there's also the whole waste issue, and being able to use eBay. It's always an inspirational story to hear that. And I think some folks in the chat were wanting to know what that documentary that you watched again, what you said it was?
The True Cause. I can type it in there.
Okay, great.
Yeah. it's a really great documentary. They go really into detail, and then also ways that we can improve ourselves, and how we can practice sustainability.
Great. Thank you for sharing the origin story of the business and your interest in sustainability. But now I think just learning more about your business in itself, just wondering what your typical workday is like running this business.
So I think as resellers, we all know it's not like there's no such thing as a typical workday. But I spend a lot of my time sourcing. I go weekly to my local thrift store and I source. Like I usually go on Wednesdays and Mondays. But photographing, so I have dress forms in different sizes because I really want to show people what they look like on different sizes. And so I have those and I do the photographing, I write all the descriptions, measuring, because that's really important when you're buying online. People want to know how it's going to fit, if it's going to fit them. So I think it's really important to have measurements. So that way people can automatically see like, oh, it's going to fit me, it's not going to fit me. And then something that I'm not very good at, but I need to get better at is social media content. I know everybody struggles with that. So I spend a lot of my time doing that. Like that would be a regular workday. And then on top of that, in order to grow my business, I attend webinars. Like the last one I attended was how to get funding for your business. I haven't seeked out funding, but I think it's important to just know what your options are. And then there's one that I attended. It was a Men's Fashion Week report for 2023. That was really interesting to see what trends are happening this year. I like to stay up to trends. I just like fashion in general. So that's always something that I'm always going to seek out. And then I actually just finished late last year in November. I finished an entrepreneurship program for women. It's a free program, and they really helped me kind of dig deeper about my business. Because at first like, oh, I'm a reseller, but it was more important than just like selling clothing. It was about the sustainability. I really dig deeper into that, and then just being an entrepreneur in general. So that was a really impactful program for me. And I also got the chance to pitch my business as practice in New York. So they sent everybody that completed the program to New York. I met a lot of awesome other women entrepreneurs that were also kind of growing their business from the start. And I also attend networking events locally in my area. And I met some really interesting people that really kind of share my business. Whenever they hear about what I'm doing, they're like, whoa, I don't really see that, even though I'm, surrounded by resellers through eBay or social media, but locally, I'm the first person they know who's reselling. So that's really cool. They get interested in that and they're like, oh, let me tell my friends, this is what you do. So that's really, yeah.
Great. No, it sounds like you have a very busy and a typical workday just changes depending on what is kind of fitting within your cycle. And I know you mentioned at the start that part of it is trying to source the merchandise, but just wondering if you wanted to elaborate a bit more on the sourcing process and what that really looks like for you.
So I only go on sales days just because it's more effective for me to drive there, spend the time. I have to know that I'm going to get the most out of it during the time that I'm there. I'm sourcing for 3-4 hours at a time. And so I only go on sales day because I know it's going to be a better deal. And, I'm sourcing 50 to 100 items at a time. So I only go on sales day. And with experience, I've gotten better at not having to look up every item, looking for comps and things like that. When I first started, I would have to look that up all the time, and it would take me way much longer in a sourcing trip. But now with experience and knowing what I sell in my store and knowing for how much, I can easily pick an item up and okay, well, I can sell it for this much because I've done it before. So that's really helpful with experience. It's just so much faster. So I personally, I look at the brands first. And I use as little movement as possible. So I'm going to try to explain it. If I'm going through dresses or pants or something, I'm just going to finger the hanger so that I'm not using so much motion because it gets tiring. Right. I know as resellers, we're going through so many racks and items of clothing. It gets really tiring. So I'm just looking at the brands. And then if I see a brand that I know, that I like, that I know would resell well and that I personally would wear, then I would pull it out and examine it, make sure the styling is for my aesthetic, for my shop. So that's really important to me too. I don't want to pick up everything or whatever. I want to pick up things that kind of meets my aesthetic and my store, because I know like people are looking for those things. And then those customers will come back knowing that I have this brand or I have this style that fits into their aesthetic. So those are really important to me. And just like more on a personal level, I really like styling. And so whenever I'm sourcing, I'm always looking for items and in my head, like how I would style it, or if I can see somebody wearing it and like to what occasion. If I can't really see it in my head, then to me, it's like, it's not really for my store. And like, you know, it's not something that somebody may want or up to date. Like I try to stay more in the contemporary fashion. So I don't pick up vintage because that's just not my thing. I'm not very good at it. Some other people are really great at it. So like I don't pick those up at all because nobody's coming to me for vintage. You know, they're coming to me for like contemporary work, resort, vacation wear, things like that. And then just I have a Pinterest inspiration board for my secondhand clothing, which I title like, you know, I want it, I thrifted. And pretty much like it's just in my head all the time whenever I'm shopping, like, oh, remember like to look for these items, whether it's like, you know, like a classic trench coat or, you know, linen blazers, things like that, that is kind of timeless, that I can style with a lot of things. Because for my social media, I like to do styling outfits and posts because I know people they're like, they want to shop secondhand, because I have a lot of friends ask me like they want to shop secondhand, but they don't know what they're looking for, or they don't know how to style it. And so that's a really big component of shopping secondhand and being sustainable. It's like, you know, like you go there and then you don't really know what you're looking for or how to style it once you see it. And so that's really important for my social media to let people kind of see like, oh, you can style it this way. And that's really helpful.
That's great. Yeah, I know. I feel like knowing what's out there, it could be overwhelming at times because there's so many different options in the secondhand market. But it sounds like you're almost curating for your own customers. They know what they're getting from you. So being able to bridge the gaps and like pick a certain brand and style that you're going for, I think that probably makes a really, really great buying experience too. So no, thanks for sharing more about that overall process. Another question is just to know, what is the most challenging aspect of running a reCommerce business?
So I would say the most challenging would be that you are sourcing item by item. And so that's just a lot to manage, like volume wise. And then also just the time that it takes to source item by item, you know, photograph item by item, you know, everything that you have to do is per item. So it's time consuming. It's not that it's hard, you know, it just takes a lot of time, and you do have to put that time apart to make sure that you have all your items ready to list, and then sitting down and listing everything. And then just the amount of items that you have, because you have one of each item, storage can, you know, be a potential problem. And so I feel like I'm outgrowing. I work out of my parents' home. I turn my old bedroom into a studio, and then I use up all their closet space.
Right.
So I feel like I'm kind of outgrowing that space right now. But yeah, something in the short term, I would really like to hire somebody to do like all those tasks.
Got it. No, that makes sense. And I feel like, yeah, I mean, it sounds like it takes a lot of time and effort, but being someone who's very interested in fashion, I'm sure you probably enjoy to an extent of being able to go through all things out there and just fully go experience.
That's my favorite part.
Right.
Yeah, that's not the hard part.
Right. No, that sounds great. And I know reCommerce, there's so much sustainability focused within that, but just also wanting to know if there are any other sustainability practices that you do on your day-to-day life.
So my biggest sustainability effort is my wardrobe. Like 95% of my items in my wardrobe is secondhand. And I'm actually really proud of that, because being able to, you know, find something beautiful and then rewear it. And then when I'm done rewearing it, I can sell it because it's still secondhand. But I also mend and upcycle and like clean up the old clothes. You know, a lot of times we see clothes at the thrift store and we think, you know, oh, it has a stain, you know, or it has a hole, and so it's done, you know, it's done forever. But I have a background in sewing, so I know what's mendable, what's fixable, and like if I can hide the flaws, like I do videos, like reels on Instagram where I show like how to like remend the lace. Like it sounds really hard, but it's actually not really hard. Or like, you know, if a sweater has a hole in it, which is really easy to fix. And then I definitely like tell my customers, hey, this has been fixed, and then show a picture. And most of the time, you know, people don't care unless it's, you know, very noticeable. But it's something that I know how to do since I can like sew a whole dress. So that makes sense to me to mend it versus, not using it at all. But I'm big on reusing, like using the reusable bags. I don't use plastic bags. I bring my eBay bag to the thrift store whenever I go. I don't have single-use items in my home. So I don't have napkins. I have paper towels instead. I don't use water bottle. I have like a Brita filtered bottled water that I take wherever I go. Like when I'm on vacation, I take that with me, and I never have to buy a bottled water. But just little things like that kind of adds up, and I can always be better at it, but it's something that I'm slowly also getting. Like I started being sustainable in my wardrobe, and then when I learned more about plastic use, I saw another documentary on plastic use, and that really stuck with me too. So ever since then, I've been better at like not using too much plastic.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, it's great to hear that you practice what you preach and really believe in the being able to have a wardrobe that's sustainable just because it is secondhand. There's so many benefits to that. And at the end of the same time, it's a fun activity being able to thrift shop, see what's out there, fill your wardrobe, have it rotate, and being able to sell.
Yeah, I always have new clothes all the time.
Right. Yeah, and that's great. And then I know even earlier before when you're talking about your day-to-day and what happens out there, I think you mentioned a bit about networking and some of like the opportunities there, but just wondering how people and networking has impacted your business.
Oh, definitely. I couldn't be able to do this on my own. I do a lot of the tasks on my own, but like getting my name out there has been through knowing different people. But I started my business with my sister actually, and I also had a friend from college who actually built a website for me. I'm on my own now. They're no longer with me, but just starting that, not having to do it completely on my own at the beginning was really helpful. So they kind of helped set that up for me. I also have two mentors. One I met through a SCORE program, the SCORE program, and he really helps me with like the overall of my business and kind of helped me think bigger and like out there. I'm a little more analytical because he's kind of like a data guy. He's based in San Francisco. I was introduced to him by another person. And my second mentor I met through the USA WEC program that I was in. She has a background in fashion merchandising, and she teaches at Parson. So those two mentors together has been really helpful for me, like thinking about my business as like a fashion brand and also the sustainability side. And then networking events, I go to that whenever I'm available. I met one person who was in the who has a magazine, and he kind of did a little feature on me, like new local people to look out for. And then I met some other people who were like starting a social networking app, and I showed up there one day to help them, just like with the styling and things like that. And they asked me to be in the commercial, so I was like, okay, but I don't act, and I did okay.
Great.
Yeah.
No, that sounds like a fun experience in itself. So glad that it seems like it all really did work out there. And I think just want to ask one more question, and then we could probably open it to Q&A. But what's one piece of advice you would give to a newer seller who's interested in sustainability?
So this was really difficult for me at the beginning because it was a little isolating. Sustainability is still a buzzword, but not many people were actually practicing it. And so I felt like if I was going to use the word sustainability in my business, that I had to be like 100% sustainable, which is really hard to do, especially when you're starting out and you're trying to make a profit at the same time. So I would say, don't worry about being 100% sustainable. You, as your business progresses, you can start doing more things that are sustainable. Like I would love to, just be able to like only use, biodegradable poly mailers that are cute and all this other stuff, but I get free ones from, USPS and eBay. So it doesn't make sense for me to pay for that, even though it is more sustainable, but my business isn't at the point where I can just buy all the packaging on my own just yet. So I would say, don't feel the pressure, to be 100% sustainable. Do what you can at first. And then as you grow your business, you can do more things that are more sustainable. And I think that's more important, just to be able to like grow as you go, and then also to educate other people what you're doing and what you learn about sustainability and passing that along.
Great. No, that is fantastic advice out there. And hopefully some of the folks on this call are able to take that and run with it. So yeah, I think we'll open it to Q&A, and I think we got quite a lot of questions coming in now. So maybe just link to one of the previous answers you had about networking. Someone did ask about how do you find good networking events to go to. So just wondering if you have anything on that.
So my friend was the one that told me about the first one. I don't know if they have it in every city, but I kind of feel like they do, at least for Texas. I found the first one called Young Texas Professional, and I found it on meetup.com. So if you go onto meetup.com, you can search networking event in your area, and then you can see what's available. But the app that my friend is launching is called Mingly, and I can write it in there. It's not launched yet. She's still working on it, but that's something to look out for. But there's just a lot of opportunities. You can join local chambers events, like chambers in your community, and they usually have networking events.
Okay, great. And then I think I've seen a couple of questions just asking for the name of your store again. Also, what's your eBay, your Pinterest, Instagram handle, all the social details. So I don't know if that's something you could share or type that in there. But even just any of that information would be great for the folks.
So this is my business, and I'll also do my Instagram because I couldn't get Emmy's Closet. Somebody had it, but they're not active.
Great. Yeah. Okay, and while you do that, I think a question we did have is if your buyers tend to ask about the sustainability of your items, your pre-loved items specifically.
Do they ask about it? Is that what the question?
Yeah.
No, I think that people buying secondhand automatically knows. I have people ask oh, how often has this been worn? If it's my personal item that I'm selling, I kind of know. But if it's something that I source, obviously I don't know. And I just tell them, hey, this is a secondhand item. It's been worn, it's been used, but it's in excellent condition. But people don't usually ask. I think they kind of know, what they're getting themselves into. Mainly they want to know how clean it is, and I steam and I spray and I clean my clothes before I list them.
Got it. Another question we have is if you sell anything else on your store other than clothing, like houseware, books, hard goods, or if not, is there any plans on eventually expanding?
I kind of feel like an expert in fashion, so I don't do any of the hard good stuff. I do mainly women's fashion, although I do want to get into men's fashion. I'm just not I don't have an eye for men's fashion as much as I do for women's fashion. But right now I do women's fashion, and then I recently gotten into jewelry because I used to not really know much or wear much about with jewelry, but that's something that I'm learning more as I go along too also.
Got it. If it ever goes to men's fashion, I'll keep an eye out because I'll push the judgment to give me any recommendations out there. Another question is if you ever do auctions on eBay.
I don't do auction on eBay. I kind of like to just list it and let it do its own thing. And then I'll send offer once a week and then a deep offer at the end of the month. And then I send offer to watchers, but I don't want to, it's pretty automated, which I really like. But I kind of know what I want to sell my things for and the lowest that I would go. And so that's what I do. I don't do auctions.
Got it. And someone did ask about the organization that was the entrepreneurship program for women that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So it's the acronym is USAWEC, which is the USA Women Entrepreneur Cooperative. It's based in New York. I'll write it in here. And I think they open in April. And then the program is from June into November. It's a really great program, and they're very structured, which I really liked.
Got it. It's great to know. And then someone did ask, and I'm not sure if you touched on it earlier, but they're looking for biodegradable bags that don't break easy. And if there's one in particular that you use or recommend.
I've used a few, but I would say that there's this one company that I learned from another seller that I purchased from. I would have to look it up. I don't remember the exact name. I think it's Eco something. I forgot. But all of their packagings are made from, I think they say bamboo, which is one of the best and most like biodegradable, material or something like that. Like, I think I think the reason why it's bamboo is because it's not like, it doesn't cause deforestation, which is like if they use regular trees that could cause lack in trees. But bamboo is just so easy and quickly to grow that I think that's the reason why they use it. But I would have to look. I don't remember. I haven't personally used it. I did get like a sample packet from them, and it's really nice. Yeah.
Got it.
It is kind of pricey, but just if you want to be sustainable, you kind of have to choose, the kind of ethical side of it and then the being conscious side of it. But
great. No, that's also very helpful to know. And then I think I just maybe saw a question someone asked about what eBay is doing it with our environmental footprint, but just to add on that, like, we definitely do support what we're doing in this reCommerce space. Renee did mention on the video just before that, but we had a reCommerce report that came out just last week. I can even put that in the chat in case folks are interested to learn a bit about that. But essentially just talking about some of the benefits out there. We try to talk about the metrics that are associated with the avoided carbon from, by buying secondhand. You don't have to buy new items that use carbon, and also avoiding from waste. So we do as much as we can to really help within this space. And we have a strong interest as eBay to focus on reCommerce and supporting sellers like Michelle. So I think on that note, Michelle, thank you so much for this conversation. I've really enjoyed being able to speak with you and learning more about your business. I'll definitely keep an eye on that if you eventually expand to the men's category, but it's been a blast talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity, and thanks everyone for attending.